Story behind the story. Written by James Mahu. From my earliest memories, I believed I was an artist, although I couldn't define what kind. Around the age of 11, I assumed I would be a painter. But as I studied art at university, I discovered that I could combine my passions for visual art, music, writing, poetry, and philosophy, and collectively utilize them to tell a story. At that time, transmedia storytelling was a foreign concept, even among scholars and visionaries. Filmmaking was its poster child. For some reason, filmmaking seemed too literal for me. I wanted something more abstract for the topic I had in mind. So, I embarked on a journey to create a contemporary mythology that would ultimately become known as WingMakers. I was around 18 when I first imagined how this mythological universe might take shape. It would be contained within a narrative that would unfold over a series of novels, each centered on the philosophical idea of the sovereign integral. And after WingMakers was established, I would write a paper that would feature the central, philosophical concept embedded into WingMakers. That became the Sovereign Integral paper, published in a wide variety of languages in 2021. In this overarching story, the sovereign was the protagonist, and the integral was the stage upon which the protagonist battled its two primary antagonists, space-time duality and the cultural illusion of separation. The sovereign recognized that the world it inhabited, as a singular identity in one lifetime, was merely a stage. In truth, it existed within an infinitely scaled space-time duality, where all of life was a fusion of intelligence and volition, as if operating from a single mind. But that singular identity, the human being, was captivated by the stage, while the sovereign watched, learned, and evolved with each iteration of its human life, and really, all life forms that it experienced and expressed through. The sovereign consciousness was not confined to higher life forms or even Earth itself. This was the crux of the WingMakers mythology, but as with all myths, it was elusive. It was conveyed through metaphor and the fiction of facts that couldn't be expressed as truth. To do so would have required excluding something as false, when the actual truth was that everything was interconnected and part of a consciousness I called the integral. Logically, in wholeness, there is no true and false. There is only the one, many, and all consciousness. The sovereign needed to reclaim the integral it had abandoned when it lowered its head, opened its eyes, and gazed upon space-time duality. At that precise moment, it became so exquisitely separated from its integral self that it became part of a group. Part of the many in the one, many and all consciousness. Yet, being in the many within space-time duality, humanist becomes unaware of the one and all, the sovereign and the integral. Our humanist forms, consisting of the body, mind, emotion, ego, and subconscious, relationships and networks of similarity. A shared belief is formed from survival. Survival is separation thinking. Us against them. These principles become our truth-tellers. They create the many, yet subconsciously and through our intuition and imagination, we know that the sovereign consciousness exists and that it is part of a whole, the integral. Sometimes these groups were small, like a family, while at other times, they were massive, perhaps an entire nation. And in between, there were schools, religions, and other artifacts of a massive hierarchy that had become our purveyors of truth, and we chose which truths resonated with us and which did not. The ones that didn't were either thrown off our stage or politely shunted to an exit door. They were excluded, reinforcing our fundamental sense of separation. The protagonist in this story is that state of consciousness that exists across countless lifetimes within space-time duality and that, over an infinite space-time, embodies and learns. I have chosen to call that consciousness the sovereign, which is both me and us. Us in the sense that the sovereign is the amalgamation of our lifetimes, me in the sense of one lifetime. Our identity is that of a human being living in the early part of the 21st century, but that is not our true identity. It is our temporal identity. We have an infinite number of temporal identities, but behind each of them is a sovereign, the I, that is us. We are a single identity, one of which exists in the 8 billion moments of a single lifetime, and one that is the sum of all moments of all lifetimes and life forms we have lived, are living, and will ever live. We are an existential identity cleaved from the whole, yet we remain a part of the whole. Between these two states of being, sovereign and integral, lies the hierarchy of the many. This is the path of separation, where we become accustomed to being part of a group, be it a family, religion, ethnicity, or something else. Beneath the surface of our temporal identity, our humanness can sense the sovereign integral consciousness. It does this subconsciously and through various activation points during our temporal identity. These activation points occur within the hierarchy of the many. These are points in our life where we turn a corner and we feel the expansion. That sense that we are returning to our natural self, and all of the adaptation we have learned is set aside for a new season of learning. Despite the teachings of truth-tellers within the hierarchy who perpetuate or build upon the beliefs and mythologies of their predecessors, we are more than just a product of our time. However, our awareness of this truth is impeded by space-time duality and the culture of separation, which drive us to seek refuge in the hierarchy for survival. This is the essence of the WingMakers mythology, which offers multiple perspectives into its structure, from cosmic worlds, spiritual philosophy, abstract surrealism art, music, poetry, and storytelling. At 18, I did not possess all the details of the story at once. The details came to me when I needed them. I am a storyteller, weaving tales of the sovereign and how it can become a sovereign integral in the limited span of human life upon the space-time duality stage. Art is an integral part of this story, because art can express this consciousness and give it representation here, on Earth. Science, on the other hand, struggles to see into these non-material, preternatural worlds that are so far beyond our world, our stage, that we do not believe them, apart from religious mythologies and drug-induced forays into their reflections. How can instruments of science that are built upon our stage possibly see beyond that stage? There is no telescope equivalent to see beyond our material stage. Science will flirt with the building of an extra-dimensional telescope, even if the lens is purely mathematics. It will try to create a string of powerful numbers that are simple that nearly anyone can understand within a paragraph of words. Yet, it would remain a set of numbers and symbols too abstract to claim experience, and therefore understanding, and therefore consciousness. Mathematics is not consciousness. It is a lens into the structure of consciousness. It is like the lens of an extra-dimensional telescope that sees the possible structure of a single consciousness, and can hypothesize that that consciousness could be interconnected with others. The sovereign consciousness is not experienced through science, mathematics, religion, beliefs, drugs, formulas, mantras, meditation, or books. The experience, while in humanness, is reserved for our imagination and intuition. They are registered in our higher mind and heart, and brought to the surface as the activation points in our life. Religion, philosophy, and spirituality create mythologies to describe what's beyond this stage that we have all collectively created. Science and mathematics are doing the same thing with instrumentation and intellectual rigor. Everyone in those two worlds is actually participating in the self-discovery of our origins. They are like those who create a tunnel and start on different sides of the mountain, planning beneath their conscious awareness how they will meet somewhere in the middle. The only real question is whether that meeting will be on the first try or a subsequent number unknown. When I began painting, and then some years later, discovered philosophy, It was a slow realization of the things I understood as a child, but lacked the vocabulary to articulate. I had to invent concepts like the sovereign integral and the one, many and all consciousness, as they were not codified in religious, philosophical or spiritual books that I had read. I then translated these concepts into art, music, poetry, paintings, and story, which became the clothes for the sovereign to wear in my world. I decided to share my story when I could not find anything like it. I presumed my anonymous works would remain small, unobtrusive, and only be promoted by others, but I also knew, through others, it could grow. And it could grow globally. I want to emphasize that I am just one person, a storyteller who encourages people to consider themselves beyond the identity of one body, one life, and one name. On a planet with nearly 8 billion human beings, over 7,000 different languages, and 4,000 religions, it is difficult to comprehend ourselves as one collective consciousness that exists and lives at the level of our species. The challenge is how to tell such a vast story without people losing their bearings. My answer is to tell it artistically through transmedia, which offers different doors through which a person can enter and leave the story. And not to try to tell the big story, but rather, the tiniest, most personal story of one mind and heart that are committed to no ownership of the story. Artists who support themselves through their art often evolve their art to appeal to a market, responding to its size, trend lines, relevance, and poignancy to their artistic vision. The art of the sovereign integral is not to try to appeal to anyone. Rather, is it to partner with the temporal identity, the humanness of a single lifetime, and draw it into itself, as if it were a mother, sweeping her child into her arms. It is like having the temporal identity augmented with the infinite and the all. Just a tiny glimmer will open the door. And once that door opens, and we keep pushing its expansion, the sovereign will enter and the temporal identity will enter, and this is precisely what achieves the sovereign integral consciousness. They become conjoined. They become we, and a partnership is born. Where do all the saints and saviors and angelic beings come into this picture? Where do all scientists and mathematicians come into this picture? Where do all the philosophers, atheists, agnostics, and spiritual teachers come into this picture? They reside in the hierarchy. In the many. They are our temporary truth-tellers to the temporal identity. They are the bridge between the sovereign and the integral. The one and the all. They are a beautiful bridge, a mosaic of group consciousness. They are the interface that we can use to explore the worlds beyond. Yet, at some point, we will cross the bridge and we will see it for what it is without any fear of its loss, because we are an integral part of the whole and we know it, quite independent of actual experience. We simply know it. All we needed was vocabulary. A way to see it with our imagination, and to feel it with our intuition. Art is our vocabulary. Science and mathematics, too. Art is the expression of the intangible proof. The thing that we hold in our deepest core is felt by our highest heart and understood with our highest mind. Completely incompletely. The proof of truth is a fractal desire that is never satiated. And yet, we can imbue the intangible proof within our creations and through our behaviors. In the principle of being kind and compassionate to all, we find the important thing. It is not the land grab of proof. It is the behavior, the temporal creations of our temporal identity that we share with all. I have made countless brushstrokes, keystrokes, musical notes, and words. Each one of them took time, and together they form a lifetime, or at least a significant portion of one. I always knew that the path of an artist would be a lonely one, as art is created in solitude. To understand and give voice to the sovereign, I needed to feel its vibrancy within me, or else no one would believe I knew anything beyond what they already knew. Why listen to sameness? The story of the sovereign was an entryway into a new way of defining ourselves, created by one insignificant person. It could have been anyone. It happened to be us. I do not consider anything I've created to be mine, for as I journeyed further into the story, I realized it was ours. Every one of us has a unique perspective on the discovery of our identity and purpose, how to embody the intangible proof within our lives, within our breath, within our beating heart, within our total humanness. Wingmakers and movement of consciousness and interconnectedness, MOSI, are the two wings that tell the story of the sovereign integral, what I refer to as the so-in. That consciousness is so vast, it is so hidden, a scale and type of intelligence that we cannot comprehend. Any attempt to clothe it would result in valuable understanding, yet fall short of the whole where the unknowable moves and has its being. It is like Gödel's theorem of incompleteness, where truth cannot be proved, and this is not so much because it is infinitely evolving, but also because truth is found within the sovereign integral consciousness, and we do not know how to experience that while being human. Like all stories, there is a journey into them and a journey out of them. When we enter them, we don't know what to expect. We explore the story, perhaps feeling a resonance of something fundamental that we've forgotten, something we've always known but didn't have words for. Its value may not be apparent at first, but eventually, a story will emerge that is large enough to hold open the possibility that we are interconnected life forms across all species and all spacetimes. Survival and separation have obscured this story, not intentionally, but as a result of their design. However, the purpose lies within the arc of the story itself, not within our moments of reality. As humans, we live for roughly 2.5 billion seconds, or moments of space-time duality, in a temporal body. The identity that lives across lifetimes, spacetimes, and the fractalhood of reality will emerge in this world through us. That is the hopeful purpose embedded in this story. Humanity is approaching the fork of destiny, where our technology can define our destiny, not just enable it. This is a critical juncture, for technology can be used to either heighten our sense of separation or enhance our experience and understanding of interconnectedness. As anyone can imagine, the human behavior that these two paths generate could be radically different. In my opinion, this is why the sovereign integral is critical to understand at this time, why the one, many, and all consciousness is rising to the surface of our world. We are led to this fundamental philosophical construct, that we are sovereign and integral at one point of balance. Our highest heart and mind are like midwives, bringing this realization into our life, as agents of consciousness and interconnectedness. It is not held out as a tangible proof, but rather as a logical extension of a collective will to understand the whole. Every species is doing this within its own temporal reality. It is not part of a religion or spiritual path or scientific theory or even logical deduction. It is of a different order that is both outside and inside of spacetime. It is not that there is non-space and non-time. It is a different order of spacetime that enables dimensional unfoldment, where the one becomes the all, and therefore the all can become the one. The all cannot be separate from the one. They must coexist naturally, which is to say that once we discover the sovereign that is us, we also discover the integral that is us. Spacetime is the mechanism that allows this realization to appear slowly and awkwardly across vast spacetimes. Spacetime is what yields the richness of experience and expression, and this is why we evolve over vast timescapes. As individuals, we are attracted to this experience to varying degrees. However, to whatever extent we reach for this experience, it is a reflection of our values in a specific spacetime. If the experience comes too soon, our interface with the real human reality can be impaired. When it is done in balance, our interface with real human reality is enhanced, as we see everything as a natural self that is harvesting their experiences and expressing themselves exactly as they want. That order of being is our natural state. This is when the two states, sovereign and integral, create a conscious partnership, and it is then that all of the learning is fully exchanged from the one to the all, and the all to the one. Every other state of our existence is adaptive. It is our natural state tainted with a form of spacetime that is not able to unfold dimensions. And those spacetimes, as they densify into materiality, create a heightened sense of separation from our natural self, and denying us the ability to see the natural self of all life. The art of writing, painting, composing, and yes, even mathematics reveals a lens that allows us to view the reflections and shadows of this sovereign integral consciousness. If we choose the fork where technology is an enabling force for understanding our natural interconnectedness, we can anchor this within the human species. We become stewards of this understanding and can interconnect with life. This is how a new form of love will be born. A form that is not of a species, of a planet, of a destiny. That is given with a purpose. A love that stems from an understanding of the one, many, and all consciousness. And this is what really matters. If this isn't part of it, then the heart of it is missing. If that is missing, the path of the intangible proof, where the sovereign integral is ours to claim, can only be found as a shadow. And this is because we are not numbers hanging in the cold space of a void. We are vibrant hubs of an evolving collective mind and heart that is part of an evolutionary process that is hidden from words or numbers. There is always something behind the reveal. Something deeper exists. We are in the midst of a journey whose destination is abstracted by spacetime and the hierarchy of the many. Its brakes are the cultural illusion of separation, and its accelerator is the understanding of interconnectedness. All of us, together, we use these brakes and accelerators to keep our balance as we journey. The evolutionary journey of all is simply too vast to have a vision or even fathom its general purpose. If it could be summed up, written in language, I would postulate that its purpose would be the creation of a higher harmony through understanding who we are as an individual of a single life, as a sovereign of infinite lives, as an integral of all, and aligning those identities in partnership, even when we don't understand their totality or ultimate purpose. As far as I have managed to plumb the story's depths, our natural self of a temporal lifetime remains an identity of our own, forged from experience and expression, and forever encoded within our sovereign. It is not dissolved into nature or allness. It returns to the sovereign who is the fractal of the natural self and the integral, leaping from one order to the other, always teaching and learning the reality of the next reality. The deeper insight. The wider view. It is time for some of us to teach ourselves how to remove our adaptive interface of spacetime duality, to loosen the shackles of separation and slip their tenacious hold of history, ours, and humanity at large. To assume our role as stewards of a meta-consciousness that will always need revealers of our future and healers of our past.